How you doing, everyone? This is Matthias Atva from Dreadnought, your Dreadnought PS4 replay guy. Well, the moment is finally upon us after 3 weeks of voting in which we polled mainly the Dreadnought community from Dreadnought community boards, the Dread Chat, and other sources, as well as my viewers and subscribers. We have finally come to the end of the Dreadnought PS4 Top 10 Players of All Time vote, and the results are finally in. Originally, I was going to make a top 10 list on my own for the request of viewers and subscribers, and I'm glad that I chose the vote. The reason being is that several of my picks for the what I believe best players on the PS4 server were not even nominated for the top 10 vote, and that reinforced the need for the vote to better represent what the Dreadnought PS4 community valued or respected as a good player habits, or a good community contributor. And I have to say the results are somewhat surprising and at the same time kind of what I expected. Before we get into the nominations and the actual top 10 list, I would like to go over the guidelines for the vote in case you missed it, some of the numbers and percentages that the vote revealed, as well as some of my honorable mentions for people that almost made the list, and also players that I would have put into my list that didn't get nominated or make the top 10. So, real briefly, the guidelines for the vote were as follows. The first guideline was that each player could vote 3 times, and the reason I had this was that many players, as well as myself, were worried that this would turn into a simple popularity contest and that the votes would be influenced by popularity or contaminated by pranks or jokes, and luckily this was not the case. The second guideline was that you couldn't vote for yourself, and this was immediately evident as when I first announced the vote, everybody wanted to vote for themselves. Well, not everyone, but most players. And the third guideline was that you couldn't vote for me, and I think that's obvious why. A few players did indicate that they wanted to vote for me, but by any means those players would not have put me on the top 10 list. And also, since I am the one conducting the vote, I think it would be unfair and there would be questions of accuracy or integrity for the vote if I was also on the ballot. The fourth guideline for this vote was that you could not vote for or with an alternate account. 2 reasons for this. One, to make sure that you did not accidentally vote for the same player under a different name and thus split the votes that should have gone to one player amongst multiple accounts, and therefore that player would have less of a chance of being accurately reflected in the vote, and also to prevent nonsense of players using alternate accounts to vote for themselves. So the vote went well. Over 100 players voted. Well over half of these players were from Dread Chat or Nuclear Inferno's community board, meaning that the top players in the game, for the most part, were voting for the top players in the game. Of course, the vote was open for everybody, and so viewers and subscribers and players from other sources were included as well. The one advantage of the first guideline is that there were many nominations, as many players value different things for their definition of the best player on the PS4 server, and boy do we have a lot of nominations. And because people were allowed to vote 3 times, we got a lot of votes to help accurately represent the best player and to also break a lot of ties for a lot of positions. Surprisingly, several positions on the top 10 list were decided by 1 or 2 votes, so it was very close and very exciting. I do want to include all of the nominations in this video, which may take a few minutes, but I think it'll be well worth the wait, and I think all of these players are truly awesome Dreadheads that need recognition and our respect. Before we get to the nominations, though, I would like to have a small section of my mentions for what I would have had on my top 10 list. Unfortunately, these players didn't get a single vote, which is good that I had the vote, but I want to mention them anyway. And I think the reason that these players didn't get a vote is because either they used to play and are no longer known, or play now and are relatively new to the spotlight and not many players know of their abilities. My 4 choices for this list would have been Saito Hitari, who is a very, very skilled player. He used to play in beta and played till about 4 months ago, had mastered every single ship class and was an extremely dangerous opponent. Mooks55, who is far and away one of the best Corvette players on the PS4 server. He is very savage, and as you have seen in many of my past replays, Mooks55 and I have gone at it several times. He's an old nemesis of mine, and he's extremely good. My third mention would be Revenite, who is one of the best current snipers on the server. He consistently gets top spot and most kills in a match, and several times gets over 20 kills, or at least in the high teens. He's very dangerous and has mastered several artillery cruisers, and I'm a little disappointed that he wasn't nominated or voted for. My fourth and final mention would be a newcomer to the PS4 server who is a master of several ship classes already, is extremely dangerous and extremely tactical, and I believe people will take notice soon, and that would be Chrysalis. Now let's take a look at all the players that were nominated for the top 10 PS4 players in Dreadnought. All these players are exceptional and awesome, and I want to let all of them know that at least one, and in most cases several, players representing the best players in PS4 Dreadnought gameplay consider each of the following players on this list to be the best players in PS4 Dreadnought history. Without any further delay, let's jump right in. These are all in alphabetical order. Anti-Villain, Blitz Necro, Brainiac 777, Calithay, Kareen, Clodwig 78, Captain Crank, Defrog 67, Dark Incendium, Dervish Knight, also known as Laserbait and Craven Evil, Dude VT, Fiery Titan, General Nemesis, Great Jazzman, I Am Your Father, Seba, Jazeljack, Killer, Killer Matt, King Zero, Lord Meatspin, L Smoke 82, Mitsuida, M Lambert Esquire, Nightor, Nuclear Inferno, Papa Khan, Patches 7, Persistent Flame, Pizza Guy, Protean Empire 3, Queen Beatrice, RG1 Ninja, Regnir, Scrote1, Sharkey 1302, Sixpack 7, Spade of Diamonds, Tommy Carroll, Timnator, also known as Chrisnator, Tit Freak, Vasilius, Valorous One, Weight of the Duck, Ursul, and Yossi 17. A 20-gun awesome Athos salute to you. Amongst the Dreadheads, all of you are truly legendary. Before we get into the final top 10 list of the best Dreadnought PS4 players of all time, I would like to make 4 honorable mentions. The following players missed the 10th spot in the top 10 list by only a few votes, and in a couple cases by 1 vote. The following list of players almost made the list: Captain Crank, Chludwig 78, Unksauce, and Waxshini. In the case of Captain Crank and Chludwig, they missed the 10th spot on the top 10 list by only 1 vote and were tied. So I believe I'm going to give an unofficial 11th place honorable mention to both Captain Crank, and Schludwig78. Before we name the top 10 Dreadnought PS4 players of all time, I would like to point out that the top 10 list represents only 52.9% of the total votes. Many of these slots were determined by only 1 or 2 votes, and therefore it should be said that there are many players that deserve to be considered the best players in the game, but these were the ones that beat them all. Alright, let's get to the top 10 players for Dreadnought on the PS4 server. Number 10. You've probably played against him and you've probably killed him a few times, but when he's in the match, you feel it, and chances are he's going to end up top player or winning the match. That's right, a big surprise for everyone, but the 10th best player in Dreadnought PS4 history is Sixpack 7 with 2.3% of the vote. If you're wondering why Sixpack deserves to be on the list when he may be a little easier to kill than some of the other players on this list, I think that no other player personifies aggressive German attack like Sixpack does. He's always knocking out the command ship, he's always first in battle, and he's always relentless. I can think of so many matches that I lost no matter how well I did because Sixpack outmaneuvered me and got the command ship or kept taking out my teammates. He never gives up and he's always first to the fight. Even if he doesn't always have the best KD, ask yourself, last time I played Sixpack, did I win the match? Did I get first place? Some players could probably answer that yes, but most of us, me included, would have to say no. Many times he's first place in the match, and many times his team wins. So no matter how you slice it, I think Sixpack 7 deserves to be considered the 10th best player in Dreadnought PS4. In 9th place, this player beats Sixpack by only 1 vote, and she's known for being one of the most aggressive Oberon ship captains around. She's known for using Oberon corvettes and Oberon artillery cruisers, but I think she's most known for her lone wolf play in Oberon destroyers. That's right, we're talking about Ursel, who got 2.5% of the vote. Ursel is a savage lone wolf player that likes to ambush her prey and take them out with shockingly devastating maneuvers. Chances are you've gotten killed by Ursel, and any player that claims to be better than Ursel has definitely been her prey. Well, that's place number 9, Ursel. The following player in spot 8 needs no introduction and beat Ursel by only 1 vote again. This player is also known for his extremely aggressive Oberon destroyer play, often taking you completely by surprise and ramming you right up the tailpipe with his savage rams, but is also a master of many other ships and is well known with his team play in the Space Apes Legion. That would be Valorous 1 with 2.8% of the vote. Val is extremely aggressive, but what sets him apart is his tactical use of the map for shockingly awesome surprise maneuvers, taking even the best of us completely unaware as he claims his victims. Beating Val by again 1 vote to claim 7th place on the top 10 list, this player is a fairly newcomer to the Space Apes Legion and to Nuclear Inferno's Dread Chat, being only there for a few months but has made quite an impression and is currently probably considered one of the best regular players around in the Space Apes Legion. This player is also a fan of Oberon destroyers and ramming and was featured in my Ramtastic video. That's right, it's I Am Your Father Seba with 3.1% of the votes. Seba is also a master of several different ships, including the Jupiter Arms artillery cruisers, multiple corvettes, and of course, tactical cruisers. Seba is extremely dangerous, but what sets him apart from some of the other players on this list is his tactical awareness and his extreme skill, and especially his calm under fire. 7th place, I am your father, Seba. Next on the list, in spot number 6, is a warrior and a gentleman. A classic veteran player who doesn't play as much anymore but still gets in there to get the savage Corvette kills. This player is a good friend of Nuclear Inferno, a good friend to many other players, a kind person, someone who shows much respect, and is also extremely skilled on the bridge of Jupiter Arms Corvettes. That's right, with 4.3% of the vote, we are talking about General Nemesis. General Nemesis is not just a good Jupiter Arms Corvette player, he also plays other ships including Dreadnoughts and is very well versed in game mechanics and gameplay strategy, often helping other players make the best of their builds. General Nemesis never creates drama for anyone else and has always treated everyone else, including me, with great respect. I think we can all agree that General Nemesis has firmly earned his place on the list in the number 6 slot. Now we're moving to the 5th spot on our top 10 list, a player that's been around for a long time and is easily considered by the vast majority of players to be the best Varog artillery cruiser captain around. He has many of his own replays and has been featured in several of mine, and was one of the first people to subscribe to my channel, but that's not why he's on this list. With 4.6% of the vote, this player's on the list because he's probably shot you mid-afterburner or halfway across the map. Yes, we're talking about Sharkey 1302. Sharkey 1302 has a rugged artillery cruiser and somehow gets out of the stickiest situations. He never gives up and he always finds his mark. Chances are, if you've been sniped, when you look down to the lower left, you've been shot down by Sharkey 1302. The 4th spot on the top 10 list beats Sharkey by only 1 or 2 votes. This player is also a pretty good artillery cruiser, as well as a decent dreadnought and a decent destroyer captain. But that's not what he's known for. Everyone knows him because of his non-stop brutal assault in the Jupiter Arms Corvette, the Nemesis. This player has shown play after play, game after game, replay after replay to be one of the best Corvette captains on the PS4 server and arguably in the game. Chances are you've been shot down by this captain, and he's often the one that turns defeat into victory, taking on entire teams on his own and carrying the day. With 4.9 to 5% of the vote, slot 4 goes to Persistent Flame. That's right, Persistent Flame, blazing a trail through the skies and blowing up ships in balls of fire. It's probably no surprise to anyone that Persistent Flame is the 4th best player on the PS4 Dreadnought server. The next 3 spots on the list are far and away the most voted for players in the game, and when revealed, I'm sure you'll agree they did not win due to popularity contests. Spot 3 on our top 10 list is a player that doesn't play so much anymore, but back in beta and late last year was considered a legendary player with few peers or equals. I did not get to play against this player all that much, as his heyday was before I even reached legendary play, but from what I hear and from what everyone says, this player is truly legendary and was one of the best the game has ever seen. Of course, I'm talking about Weight of the Duck with 5.6% of the votes. Weight of the Duck was a master of many ships, but was best known for being one of the first pioneers of the Kataro stealth bomber build and an excellent captain in any dreadnought destroyer. For 2nd and 1st place on this list, this is the only choices on the list so far that would have exactly matched what my choices for top 2 spots in the Dreadnought PS4 top 10 player vote had I not conducted the vote and made the list arbitrarily on my own. This is where the votes really start to skyrocket, where most people voted for these two players, which are now far and away ahead on vote percentages from the other players on this list. In second place for the Dreadnought PS4 Top 10 Player of All Time vote goes to a player that is not only a master of several ships, well known for his use of Dreadnought nukes, and an excellent team player, and the founding member of the first official PS4 Dreadnought community and chat, a player that is also, like General Nemesis, a warrior and a gentleman who often mediates conflicts between other players, gives excellent gaming advice, and treats people with friendship and respect. We are, of course, talking about Nuclear Inferno with 6.2% of the vote. That's right. A huge section of the votes remember and respect Nuclear Inferno as one of the best players in the game and possibly the progenitor and key player when it comes to forming and maintaining the Dreadnought PS4 community. What a great player. A big round of applause for Nuclear Inferno. Alright, we finally arrived. Here we are, the top spot in the Dreadnought PS4 top 10 player list of all time. This player would have been at the top of my list as well. This player needs no introduction and is the bane of most experienced players on the PS4 network. When he shows up in matches, there are sighs and groans, and after the match is done, there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. If you voted for him, it's because you respect his superior gameplay and in-depth knowledge of the game, and if you didn't vote for him, it's probably because he's killed you too much. In fact, 3 separate players in 3 separate incidents asked me seriously if they could surrender one of their 3 votes to apply a -1 vote for this player. To which, of course, I said no, but I still thought it was pretty funny. This player got far and away the highest amount of votes and is clearly the player's choice for the top spot on the Dreadnought PS4 top 10 player list of all time with 16.7% of the vote. We are, of course, talking about scroteone. scroteone is an amazing player that has mastered all of the ship classes in Dreadnought and still to this day comes up with many new builds and is always experimenting with better ways to play the game. On top of that, scroteone was one of the pioneers and earliest users and contributors to advanced team play and clan tactics on the PS4 server, and his clan, the Space Apes Legion, is around and still causing havoc on the server to this very day. Love him or hate him, you have to admit he's one of the best players around, but on top of that, I think what sets scroteone apart is not his banter or his extreme gameplay style, but it's his technical excellence. Scrote knows all the ships, Scrote's always coming up with new builds, and Scrote is always coming up with new tactics in team gameplay to keep the game fresh and new. scroteone is the player's choice for the top spot in the top 10 PS4 Dreadnought players of all time. Well, there you have it, folks. The top 10 players on the Dreadnought PS4 server. 10th place, Sixpack 7. 9th place, Ursel. 8th place, Valorous 1. 7th place, I Am Your Father Seba. 6th place, General Nemesis. 5th place, Sharkey 1302. 4th place, Persistent Flame. 3rd place, Weight of the Duck. 2nd place, Nuclear Inferno. And 1st place, the most legendary player so far for the game of Dreadnought on the PS4 server, scroteone. Congratulations, everyone. You are the most legendary players amongst the most fanatical dreadheads in the game. I'm just shocked at how well this vote went and how many viewers, subscribers, players, and true dreadheads participated in the vote. Expect more votes on the channel for things like top ships, top player for ship class, top player wish list for new content for the game, and many interactive votes and events that give you, the subscriber, viewer, and player, a voice in the Dreadnought PS4 community. Well, that's it from me for now, and I'll see you soon in Sinley Bay.